Welcome back to John Pennekamp Coral Reef State Park in Key Largo, Florida. We're Jill and Charles, and we love getting eye to eye with wildlife. One of the best ways to do that around here is getting out into the ocean. So we're going snorkeling, and you're invited to come too. Of course, the best places to snorkel are accessible only by a boat with a motor. So the first time, we splurged on a guided tour from the concession at the park marina. We waited and waited for a day with very little wind. The boat ride itself was pretty fun. It took about 45 minutes, and everyone aboard seemed really excited to be there. The captain took us about 6 miles out to a place called Dry Rocks, which is a popular reef mainly because it has an underwater Jesus statue, which a lot of people on the boat really wanted to see.
If you want to jump, you can jump from the side over here. There's no steps over here. You're welcome to jump from here. Underwater Society, raise funds to bring it out here. There is a flag on the staff.
The visibility was not great, even on a day without very much wind, and the water was too deep to get up close and personal with the fish in this part of the reef. We were also really saddened to see the reef in its diminished state. The hard corals have been bleaching here for years, and even the ones that were surviving in warm water couldn't handle the heat wave of 2023. You can see some soft corals are still alive, and the fish can make use of the reef structure for a long time after the corals that produced it have died. And that brings us to another trip that we enjoyed even more, because marine creatures appreciate all kinds of structure, even when people put it there by accident. So this concrete barge ran aground in a shallow area off the east coast of Key Largo. We've heard this shipwreck is a navigation hazard when you're boating at night, but it sure makes a great little habitat for fish, and it's pretty easy to see them in this shallow water. You do need a boat to get to this location, so we were really excited when our next door neighbors in the volunteer village offered to let us tag along for a ride on their little John boat. There were some invasive lionfish on the shadow side of the barge, so I'll show you one of those first. This little guy is a chub. They were super abundant here, so you'll see a lot more of them. And these funny-looking hatchet-shaped fish are called look-downs. They're a type of jack, and they aren't mentioned in any of the local snorkeling guides, as if they weren't colorful enough to make the cut. All these little guys were hanging out inside the ship. The striped ones are called sergeant majors, and if they live long enough, they'll get to be at least as big as your hand. These beauties are called French angelfish. Here's a rainbow parrotfish. Parrotfish scrape algae off of hard surfaces like coral with their sharp beaks. They're famous for pooping out bits of the coral skeleton as a fine sand. Here's another chub. I learned they can actually change color back and forth between the polka dots and the pinstripes. These black and white ones are called Atlantic spadefish. Last but not least, we were invited aboard a pontoon party boat with a bunch of other RV volunteers on a rare afternoon when the ocean was so calm it almost didn't feel like the ocean. We went 6 miles out to the Molasses Reef lighthouse and jumped in the water.
What's the temperature?
At this point, I want to explain that I'm actually not very good at snorkeling. I always fog up my mask after a minute or so, despite having washed it with toothpaste. And I did put a coat of slime on the lenses. I don't bother with fins because I don't even know how to use them. Sometimes I tilt my head too far down and water leaks into the snorkel or breaks the seal between my mask and my face. But the reason I mention this is because once I get out there with the fish, I don't care about any of that. I'm not wearing a wetsuit, but I don't even notice the cold until I've been in the water for at least an hour. Because even while you're grieving the loss of the corals and you're trying to figure out your equipment, you can't not be happy to be swimming in the ocean with fish all around you. Who cares if you can hardly see through the fog in your mask and you have to keep spitting out salt water? And then you see something out the corner of your eye and you look over your shoulder expecting to see one of your friends swimming by, and it's a green sea turtle coming up for air.